What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Look Who's Chalking. Depending on when you're watching this, happy Thanksgiving, unless this is after Thanksgiving. And then I guess the diet starts on Monday because I know you ate a bunch. You never had your car, as Vin Diesel once said. We're going to be looking at the main slate like always, but maybe we'll talk a little bit about the Thanksgiving games if we have a little time at the end for those who are going to sneak that listen in. Because if you're listening to it, that means you're listening to it on Thanksgiving morning, and then you really are a true fan. And for you know what, for all true fans out there, you know what we're going to give you? Nothing, just another episode of the podcast. Maybe we'll give you another great Men's Warehouse pick of the week because there's a new show in town. Is it Debo or is it Ayuk? And I guess I can tell you that this week on Thanksgiving, it's Debo. That's right. That crowd, it's a loud, raucous environment. The 8th man, even though it's a scam, the 12th man, a bigger scam. They're cranking noise for all sorts of extra defenders, but they're going to want those easy behind the line of scrimmage completions. Get that crowd out of it. How do you do that? You give it to Debo. He hit the over on his receiving total, and I know that's more of a sports betting thing, but it's not like he wasn't used as much. And I think he's going to get good utilization. I'm not going to say Ayuk's going to have a bad game or anything like that, but I smell more Debo usage in this game. If my memory serves me correctly, he didn't play last year. I think he was out. It was that stretch before the playoffs where Purdy was starting. And I think he went up there to Seattle in a primetime game and Kittle went off. But I'm predicting Debo, but forget about that. That Ayuk play made me very happy because it was random. 7,200. People didn't want to pay for it, but I really smelled it. And if it benefited any of you out there, because if you had a player like that on the slate, you pretty much cashed. It was a weird thing where there weren't too many crazy standouts. So hopefully that was able to help you. Well, welcome in Gary wearing his Greasers and Socias t-shirt. For once, I always get made fun of if I'm wearing some sort of undershirt. It looks like I'm about to, kind of put a cigarette in my ear and roll up my sleeves. Happy to see Gary in here rocking that. Wait, is that no, that's not an undershirt.
No, it's like just like a little mini Henley type thing going on.
That's the problem with those white shirts. They get you can't really tell if that's a Kirkland or a nice shirt from Theory or something like that.
You'd have no idea. And it very well may be Theory. I have a lot of theory. I'm not sure if this shirt is that, but great call on Ayuk. I got a little too cute with my Men's Warehouse. I was trying to go in, pay up, but at a discount, still try to sneak in those side door points in an environment I like.
Quick about your guy before. Yeah. I saw a couple. Is Eckler slower? Did he maybe lose a little bit, or was that just a bad game?
I don't know. I didn't really get to watch much of the game, if I'm being quite honest with you.
I'm starting to get worried though.
I don't know.
In games like this, they would dump him 15 passes.
Oh yeah. It's certainly. Well, he had that in weeks prior, which was giving him the floor, even though he wasn't finding the end zone. So I still think from the pass catching perspective, he'll be there. Again, man, Brandon Staley, I just don't trust it at all. I don't trust his coaching staff. Even Kellen Moore can't save anything. The Chargers are cursed, and it's hard to trust any of that stuff going forward. Maybe Keenan Allen.
Yeah, as long as Herbert's chucking, there should be something there. I think when they get Josh Palmer back, they were able to kind of get into a decent groove when they had two receivers they can trust. Quentin Johnson dropped another disgrace. How about we take a quick second and talk about, I was talking about this earlier on an Odd Shopper show, but we were texting about it. Congrats to Charlie Bucket. I learned today, we went back and forth about it because it was being critiqued, but I learned today that Charlie Bucket was a true Charlie Bucket. The guy who won the Millionaire put in one single lineup and won.
Oh, nice. Single bullet, baby. Love it.
And I said, congrats, that's less than Charlie. He's poorer than Charlie Bucket. Because if you can remember, Bucket had 2 bars. This guy had a lone ticket, and he won it with a unstacked Brock Purdy. And congrats to Chuck.
Yeah, no, listen, we could tear that lineup apart all you want, or you could give him all the props you want. At the end of the day, that guy has $1 million this weekend, and mazel tov to him. Really exciting stuff. Assuming it's to him. I have no idea. But yeah, no, it was. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
You mentioned in the text that he did win, but that doesn't change the fact that the optimal lineup still was.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Oh, you know what was ironic about it? um, it was impressive that he won with a Purdy lineup without Ayuk or Kittle, when Ayuk or Kittle were optimal without Purdy. Like
That's
Trevor Lawrence
that
was
is
optimal with
really
Calvin
funny.
Ridley, and Ayuk and Kittle were optimal together without Purdy, and this guy won with a Purdy lineup without Ayuk and Kittle. So it was just funny. I'm not here to ever come and shit on anyone's lineup. If you win, you win. It's like I'm a believer. I'm a big fan of the show Survivor, right? Like I don't ever people try to talk about like good winners and bad winners on that show, but to me, at the end of the day, if you win, you win. You won
Wow, you
over
hear this, ladies and gents?
you won.
If you guys had to guess on this show who actually has to would follow a code of ethics towards the million, everyone would vote towards Gary. What he just told you is I'll slit your Achilles to get to that Survivor.
Of
Wow.
course,
That's
dude.
interesting.
I mean,
I don't know, Gary. I'm
it's hard.
kind of on the I don't want to have asterisk victories. I won't marry a girl who
I'm not
used to be hot because I can't deal with the fact that she wasn't with me when she was her hottest. I can't have asterisk
there.
victories. I
There are
can't
more
fight
impressive.
Muhammad Ali in his last year and say I beat Ali.
There are more impressive champions than other champions. There's more impressive paths to victory than other victories. There's more impressive looking lineups than other lineups. At the end of the day, you win, you win. You deserve to win because you made a lineup that won the fucking contest. You beat 300,000 people. You deserve to win. I use the Survivor analogy because there are some seasons that people like, oh, they think the best player got out at 3 or 4 who slit everyone's throat and, kind of bully their way to the top of the game. And then you're left with choices at the end that the jury has to vote for. You still got to the end and you won over your peers that have to vote for you to win the game. In this case, you beat 300,000 people. I don't care if you had one lineup, 150 lineups. I don't care if your lineup looked weird from an optimal construction standpoint. Congrats to that guy. He did it. He deserves to win.
100%. I said I would much rather a bucket win than a Wonka. There's plenty of chocolate factories for people at your company and other companies like that. I want to see some random guy who went to a playoff game. He saw Shakir score. He heard about Kincaid, so he threw them in his lineup. Like I want a guy from the commercials, some 22-year-old. Actually, no, I don't want that because then I'm jealous that he's living a life that I didn't at 22. But I want somebody who threw in that lineup, won it. I want the guy who puts this show together for us to win the million. That's who I want to win the million, to be honest. About it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I do too. Well, no, but it you know what? Just to put a ball in this conversation, though, it speaks to honestly, it comes back to the parts where I have lack of faith in humanity because stuff like this happens, and all people can do on Twitter, or people that think that they know the DFS, or maybe people that do know DFS, or just people that are bitter that they put a lot of money into DFS and haven't won anything big. They just can't help themselves but critique and shit on it and say, "Oh, this is a once in a lifetime situation." Blah blah blah. I was just scrolling right now to find that time that we said I was sick when I won the slant for $30,000, but I could have won the million, right? And so I posted a picture of the lineup. It was the best overall lineup in all of DraftKings that weekend. It had the highest score of any contest. And I just remember a lot of congratulations, And then of course there was like one or two comments that were like, this is a once in a lifetime lineup. You can't win with constructions like this. Weird random lineup. You only get a lucky line like that, 1 in a million.
Well,
just
I would
bitter
say
mother
if
effers.
it was 1 or 2, but just by you saying 1 or 2, that's great. That's great. If I fucking win, there would be a line of lemmings. I just coming out, just shitting on me up and down the whole thing. But
people
no,
can't be
just
happy for other people.
They
just
can't.
like yeah.
People can only be happy for others once they're in the Graceland. That's when there's. I hate those scumbags more than because of course you're doing well. You don't mind, but you don't want others to get there before you. But when you won, I think you texted me that day, and I think 2 days later, I was like, "Let's do a show about it." And here we are,
why
a couple
not?
of years later.
And here we are. Yep. And it's been a fun ride along the way. But honestly, that guy great, and it happens more than you think. Like Will, who's an ETR subscriber, Will, his last name is HSU. I don't know, Sue, I guess is how it's pronounced. And since then he's become a much more prolific DFS player. But when he won his millie in the middle, I guess it was 2 years ago now, in the middle of 2021. It was a single bullet. He played it across the whole slate, and he also won. So it could be done. And
I'm a scumbag for not knowing, but I know one of the Stochastic subscribers won the millionaire last week.
Oh, nice.
last week,
That's
and
great.
then they were retweeting his stuff, and all I saw, I went to his profile, I saw that he was 22, and just immediately jealous.
Wow.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if I saw
That's, yeah.
42, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care. Like, if I just wouldn't. But when I see 22, I just, oh my God. But then again, I'm imagining he's me at 22. He's not. He's not. So anyway,
Yeah.
22, 12, that's where we are right now, week 12. And I was looking at some of this slate these last couple of days, and I say we start where those two highest prices are at. Why don't we start at Philly, Buffalo? A weird game from Philly's perspective. They kind of got shut down, but then after that fumble, they were able to turn it around. One thing that I noticed, whose day was it? It was a Devontae day. And there's really nobody else to pass to other than those two guys. I mean, when you
Yeah.
look, like, they tried a little bit here, a little bit there.
Especially with Goddard out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And something
Yeah.
that I did kind of think, I was talking about this for the daily bets, was watch DeAndre Swift go over on his receiving yards. Watch them try to run some route, like some Kamara type routes, just to get it out of Hurts's hands up the middle, because who are they throwing to over the middle of the field? And it's just
Yeah.
like, not many options. So, we've said his name so many times. He screwed me. He screwed you. We both watched the tape from the ring, but he didn't screw the people who had him the other night. And now without Goddard there, you've seen this Bills secondary has been a little bit vulnerable. Where are you looking at in this game?
So this game is a fascinating one to me because obviously you look ahead preseason, you see, oh crap, week 12, probably game of the week, 4:30 Buffalo, Bills Eagles game. We're all looking forward to that one. And now these are two teams that couldn't be in more of different situations. And now it still does have I think tied for the highest total on the slate, 48.5.
What's
The
it tied
Eagles
with?
Jags Texans. The Eagles have the highest team total on the slate at 25.5, but the Bills are all the way down, seventh highest of the main slate at 22, which is kind of fishy to me. Pat Thorman put this in a pace up article, so he thinks this game's going to play fast. And when you have teams that are absolutely desperate versus a team that has kind of can afford to have a loss at this point, that just is completely, I'm not saying they're going to lay down their swords. Obviously, they're the Eagles. They're at home. They're probably the best team in the league, but they're coming off big emotional win where they had to kind of get that monkey off their back after losing the Super Bowl. And the Bills have to win every single game, basically, just to keep themselves in the playoff hunt at this point.
Kind of, but not really.
Kind of. Like, I don't know what.
Like, they're two games out of the 1 seed, but they're also 2 games out of the
the AFC just has
bunkers.
so it's I guess I got to look at the NFC, but anyway for their I guess they're 6-5. The Dolphins are 7-3. Yeah, I mean certainly a game that they are more desperate than the Eagles at this point. I say all this to say I think I'd be more interested in attacking the Bills side, even though it's on the road. There's been no reason for me to show confidence in this Bills team over the last couple of weeks. But hey, you fire your offensive coordinator. The Eagles' passing defense has been very poor all season. Right? You see that metric on Diggs. You got to save a little bit of money from Hurts to Allen, and I think Hurts has the best floor of any quarterback in the NFL. But I still think Allen has the best ceiling. So I'm interested in this game, but I want to go more Bills heavy with Eagles bringbacks.
Gary, I want to tell you that's in all of my just quick. I told you I enter the $21 lineups just so I can make some lineups for this show in the beginning and tinker. And that's what. Oh, okay, and that's what allows me to. After Stephon Diggs had that very down week last week, I love the Bills side of this game. The only reason I was bringing up Devontae Smith is because I don't feel like affording A.J. Brown in the lineup. And I do think with all the extra attention that can be paid to Brown, I know Brown is one of those guys who, he was going off after going off after going off. Dare I say I'm watching that tape from the ring? Hey, there are sequels to the movie, but I really want Diggs in that lineup. And I think I want Devontae Smith on the other side to make the stacks affordable. The question is, who else are we going with? Because I think he's winging it. and someone else is going to be the beneficiary. Now, the Jets have two good cornerbacks. Last week, they were able to take out Davis and Diggs, and the two beneficiaries on the inside, we had Shakir, and first half Kincaid was doing well. One of those guys is going to be in a high scoring double stack. I could just feel it, but you got to kind of figure out which one it is.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think that's the other thing with the Bills right now is with I don't love going to James Cook as much because first of all, Latavius Murray's still involved, and you still have an issue running on the Eagles, but
Yeah.
you have Dalton Kincaid, who's a bona fide 20+% target share guy right now. You still have Gabe Davis as your boomer bust option, and now you have a legit wide receiver 3 spend down option in Khalil Shakir, who has kind of won back that job as a guy that's on the field in pretty much all 3 wide receiver sets, and someone that Allen's shown some trust in the last couple of weeks and had a couple big games. So you have a ton of options there for you. It makes it kind of in a situation where I'd want it to be where I am doing multiple variations of that double stack. So even if you're not an MME player, if you're doing 30, 40 lineups, I'd want to make sure I have them all covered, right? So I want to have an Allen Diggs Davis, Allen Diggs Kincaid, Allen Diggs Shakir.
This is this is time for Wonka to make his mark on the world.
You gotta have it covered because, like, I agree. I don't want it to be Allen Diggs, and I also agree I'd want to double. The other thing you can do though is, it makes sense to double, especially if you want to go to like Shakir because you're going to need to save money somewhere. But if you don't feel like having an Allen Diggs Shakir or something like that, you could just do the skinny. Hope that Diggs goes for like 12, 150 and 2, and then Josh Allen runs 2 in also, and boom, you're fine.
Or so what if he has a big day? What if Allen and Diggs have big days, but the other is it's equally spread?
Yeah, right. That's another way that the double is not needed, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you don't need double stacks here. You don't, especially with the upside of Diggs at 8,800. What you need from Diggs there is like 35 plus points, right? So if that happens, the vast majority of Josh Allen's points are funneling that way anyway. Of course, it's possible, particularly with like a cheap guy, Shakir, or a tight end. So, I don't love the traditional Diggs Davis double stack. That's not something I'm really interested in anyway. So if there's a combo that you want to eliminate, that would be the one for me.
All right, now I'm going to look at the other team who played on Monday night for a second. We're going to look at Kansas City. And like I told you when I was doing those $1 lineups just to see what was available, if you watch that game, whether he had a bunch of drops or not, you could see who their most trusted option in the passing game is now. And I got to show you his price. Yeah, keep going down and go to those wide receivers. You're going to see Justin Watson there. Look at that. Look at that. I mean, 11 targets. And yeah, he had some drops, but also had a touchdown and was targeted on the other touchdown that was just thrown behind him. Like you could have been looking at a 2-touchdown day. I mean, he was priced before the game started. So this has to be Chalkfest 2023.
Yeah, let's get that up. I don't even have projections up yet.
This is stuffing at the Thanksgiving table. Like, this is 99% owned. You have to.
I'm curious. I really am curious because, last week was a good week for him for sure. But it's a 1-game sample. I also have to look at some of the underlying stuff, like the PFF stuff and target share and everything like that, to really dive into this play. But let's see.
Well, I can give you so from a semi-informed perspective, but not fully informed. Sky Moore is like a reserve now. They don't use him. You know how it used to be while him and MVS are on the field?
Sky Moore is not a thing. Right
MVS is still on the field. Hartman got brought in, is used sporadically. And so it's like Watson, I believe, plays just as much, if not more, than Rashid Rice.
Watson and MVS have been running the most routes. I know that for sure. And then it's Rashid. Yeah, Watson had 11 targets last week. Trying to find snaps.
So I mean, it's just like when I'm trying to make Diggs and Allen and Devontae Smith and people like that fit, it's just so hard not for me to shop over here.
Watson played the most of all receivers with 50 snaps. And then Rashid Rice was actually only 5 behind him in this game with 45. So, and then Scott Moore actually ran 40, MVS ran 37. So it's still all, obviously Watson did a ton with those 50 snaps. That's only a 63% snap share. It's not that high.
Yeah.
and Rashee Rice ran at 57%. And the targets per route run on the whole season, I much prefer Rice. Obviously, he's much more expensive there
of
at
course.
55. So if you're trying to squeeze in a Stoneman punt play, I don't have an issue with Watson, especially if you're playing Mahomes, because that's, again, it makes sense. So say you're trying to get a Mahomes Kelsey in there, right? It makes sense to double
Gary,
it
I
up.
gotta say something. I take back my apology. I was right about fucking Kelsey. He doesn't look the same. And I said he's not capable of matching Diggs for paying that price. And yeah, he had that one game against the Broncos. He looks slow. He gets hurt every game. He's not capable of another one. And I'm saying, and I take back my apology. I should have, my sniffs have been on with most players this year, and I'm never paying for Kelsey. You will never see me pay for anything over 79. He's never that. Look at that. Look at that 1 week. Look at that 1 week, the shit on Andy week. And then since then, 6, 3, 7, which is good, but 58 yards, 14 yards, 44 yards. Eat shit. He's old. And there's the Taylor Swift thing. I'm out. I'm never paying that much. No, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, when you can look at it this way, right? Of all flex options this week, so running back, wide receiver, tight end, he is the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth highest price guy. And if he was a running back, he'd be the second highest running back. If he was a wide receiver, he'd be the fourth highest wide receiver, and obviously he's the highest tight end.
So let me tell you who's going to outproduce him by fucking 10 miles this Sunday. It's a guy, you may have heard of him. You may have heard of him. He scatters on your floor throughout the middle of the night. His name's the Roach, and he's back in town.
Oh, he's back in our lives.
And they did you a favor. Because we've all been wondering, but is he going to resume in the same role? You know, he might hurt his ankle again. They're worried about Darrell Henderson. Go back to that practice squad. You've been waived. We're getting 99% snap share, Roach. Ronnie Rivers isn't even back yet. He's going to be Roaching up and down that field. And I pray, because I'm playing him. He's a guy I'm exempt from chalk, because it's not like he's going to be Singletary at that price. I'm playing him. His last game was against that Arizona defense when he went absolutely wild. It's all Roach all the time. He's my Men's Warehouse pick of the week.
You know, this is kind of fun, Andy, because I don't know about Stochastic. I don't have a subscription over there right now, but the on ETR, we don't have ownership projections yet. Like, we're just kind of letting Thanksgiving happen because, you know, that's a big 3-game slate that has $1 million contest and everything. And I don't think we've been able to put our resources towards main
People
slate.
don't like seeing that IR next to somebody's name. Look at that.
Yeah. I don't know how I here's what I did. I did my first look today, right?
What are we pulling up Ronnie River? Don't show me this bum.
So I did my first look today.
Up.
Let's talk about the running back position as a whole. So, like, all right, it's kind of ugly. So
sorry, we were talking about Mario Party. Now I'm fucking going wild today.
It's kind of ugly, the running back position as a whole. So it's Kamara, who is in a tier of his own at 8,400, who I'm really only interested in if check down Derek Carley is playing. And, you know, if not at 84 against the Falcons in Atlanta, I can't get that with Jameis Winston pushing the ball downfield. So that's,
Alex,
I'm not really
can you pull up all the running backs? Oh, is this it?
No, it should be. He just has to
recheck
everything.
Okay.
So yeah, Kamara 84. That's a tough click with the kind of how tight pricing remains on DraftKings. Saquon, credit to him. I said on all the content last week, I'm not touching any Giants, blah, blah, blah. Can't do it. Not until I see more. And then, of course, you know, and it's impressive too, because not only did he get there with the 2 receiving touchdowns, 57 yards through the air, 83 yards on the ground, but he's had 3 straight weeks of over 5 yards a carry as the Giants offensive line's gotten like somewhat healthier. And DeVito showed a pulse last week. So at home against New England, if you want to go there, you can. It's still kind of cheap for what the ceiling case is of Saquon, right? Then you got ETN in the highest scoring game of the week, or whatever projected. And then we talked about Swift already. I'm not into Jonathan Taylor against the Bucks. And then you're basically in the mid tier, right? And the mid tier this week is fascinating because it's Roach is back. Bijan is still only 6'5", and then Derrick Henry is 6'4". So talk about chalk. Derrick Henry at home against the Panthers, I guarantee you will be chalk, because even though since Levis has come on board, they've been pushing the ball downfield. They've also found themselves in the spots where they need to be throwing a lot. This is a game at home against the worst team in the league. You know they want to run Derrick Henry 30 times. You always talked about cold weather Henry. We're starting to get there. So, this is a Derrick Henry spot. And if you're a cash game player, you fire him up. I'm very curious to see what his ownership is. You're never going to get Derrick Henry this cheap in a good matchup like this. So,
What do you think
and then
about
after that,
I mean, Pacheco right there, 6,200
right,
against
exactly.
Vegas is D?
That's another good one who really is, talk about the Kelsey only has one ceiling game. So does Pacheco, man. There was that game against the Jets. He had 27 points. Besides that, he's been no man's land, middle of the road. So,
Yeah.
6-2 is a fine price. I don't mind paying it. Yeah, obviously they're big favorites here, so the game script should work in his favor. But there's plenty of options right below him too. So this definitely, like, how last week I said I really feel like it's going to be a one spend up running back, one spend down running back week. And if you look at the optimal lineup, that's what it was, right? Saquon was optimal with Jalen Warren. This week, I feel like it's probably going to be two guys 7K, like under 7K. So whether that's a chalk a Roach and somebody cheap, or if it's two guys in like a 6K with a low high 5K range, you got a lot of options. You
Well,
got
you
the
just
Steelers
talked
guys
about a
again.
guy. Yeah, you just talked about Jalen Warren. Obviously, he kind of jumped off the page with that long run, and then having a day against the against the Cleveland Browns. You know that's going to entice them to get. I mean, only 9 carries.
And new offensive
So
coordinator though.
new offensive coordinator and a matchup where they may be able to continue to run and more effectively against
Yeah, I
Cincinnati,
mean, we
who has
just
Jake Browning in there.
look at another guy that's still going to be an option for you. Look what Devin Singletary did against this exact team, right? 2 weeks ago. 30 carries for 150 yards. I think you can, they dominated that game on the ground. I think you can consider both Pittsburgh running backs. Only because Najee Harris is so cheap at 49. We talked about, like, if you're below 5K, you really need to get to like 24, 25 points. So there's no reason he can't do that at 4.9. And, so obviously I would consider both those guys as spend down options. I think Singletary should still be on your radar. I think James Conner could still be on your radar. I think Rashad White could
If
still be on
it's
your radar.
if it's
There's a ton of guys.
first and goal from the 2, who do you think they're putting in there?
The Steelers?
Yeah.
Najee.
So I think I think he could still have a good day.
I think Warren's going to see an uptick in overall carries, and he'll still have the down and distance role. But I think Najee will get goal line stuff still, yeah, and short yardage.
Have you seen how bad Denver's run defense is? Whether it's even making Madison look like a star the other end. Like, they're getting these wins, but they are still giving up a ton of rushing yards. And Ford weirdly has like that home run hitting ability where if he can find a hole, he'll go the whole way. So
yeah, that's why I'm probably getting my ceiling plays at receiver this week and spending down at running back. Is basically, it's like the Chalker Roach is kind of like the top of what I'm interested in.
Well, he's the RB1. What do you mean?
Yeah,
he's RB1, so he is the highest priced guy as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. Anyway, sorry, my mind's all over the place. To bring this conversation full circle, my point was Bijan, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift at 6'8". Mixon's still going to project really well because of his role. Pacheco at 6'2", Rashad White at 6'1", and Singletary at 6. I don't know if Chalk Roach is going to be as owned as you think. There's all those guys right around him. I don't know if he'll be.
I don't think he will, Gary, because like when you won that $1 million, I'll always remember you had the balls to play Dalvin Cook coming off of an injury, and I think people get scared to do that. Now, I will say, as you saw with A-Chain, came back from a knee injury, and then he didn't feel good coming. Yeah, and they're saying it wasn't a re-injury, but the coaching staff can take it easy. I will say in this case, they don't have a Mostert. They have nobody. They have freaking rusty old what's his name? Rusty Royce backing up Kyron. So, I love the way they used him. And with Stafford in there, he's going to get those dinky receptions as well. You saw it last week.
And also, so the other thing here, sorry, not to cut you off, is we don't know if Puka or Cooper Kupp are playing, which I think could benefit Kieran, because then you're getting like those 10 target games that you saw for sure, like lock that in. But the danger of that is you get behind real quick, or, it's Arizona. I'm not going to say anyone's going to get behind real quick, but your overall ability to move the ball on offense without truly your top 2 receivers, with Stafford probably still not 100% here on the road, is a little bit scary. But, I still think it's a fine play for sure.
At least it's a good matchup. And in those games where I plug some secondary stacks, I don't even have to look. It's Kyron and either McBride, or depending if I want to get away from, like, fully get away from chalk, I'll have balls to try Marquise one last time. I mean, I didn't really play him too much last week, but I think 3 failed weeks in a row with Kyler Murray just sounds a little strange. I feel like they're going to find a way to go to him a little bit more this week. You saw Metcalf, and I know you can't really compare the two because he's a completely different receiver, but
Yeah,
one
no,
of
I
these
agree.
weeks, Marquise Brown is going to
I totally
have
agree.
a decent day. Like
Dude,
he
he's so cheap. He's so cheap there at 5'2". He's creeping down towards territory of being on my cheap wide receiver volume list. That's how cheap he's getting. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a play for sure at home. Yeah, I like him. I like McBride. I think you can still go back to Rondale. Um, you could definitely attack this whole game. I think it's an interesting one to attack. Um, Other games, I mean, that Jaguars Texans game is worth mentioning. We finally saw it from
100%.
Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence hit 32.25 points.
Did we though, Gary? Because if you
Yeah, I
look,
know
it
because
was
two of them were rushing,
another
right? Yeah.
240-yard day, and he just happened to be in an area where two got stretched over the goal line. If that's just one more passing touchdown, it's a really good day. But those two rushing touchdowns, I mean, holy crap!
Oh yeah,
Yo,
it's been
keep
bad.
scrolling down. Keep scrolling down. Okay, one
Yeah, he
300
only had
yard
one.
bonus.
Yeah, he only won 20-point game all year before this one. And that was the game he got 300 yards, right? Yeah, I mean, so I'll pay the bull case is I mean, Houston seemingly every week is getting in a shootout. Seemingly every single week, the way CJ Stroud is pushing the ball, the way how bad their defense still really is, and how pleasantly good their offense is, it seems like every single week they're getting in a shootout. So I definitely need pieces of this game. If I were, if we're talking about our what do we call our power sweep in the $100 single entry, our four
The
horsemen or
big
something?
four. The
Yeah, the
big
big four.
four.
Sorry, yeah, the big four. If we're talking about our
Yeah.
big four,
Yeah.
I want one of these
It's
guys. So.
Pierce, Garnett, and Ray Allen, and then the single entry $100 Rondo.
So that's your point guard. It's making everything go. Yeah, that's yeah. Jesus. Um,
The big
I
four.
think I think they're good. CJ. The thing with Stroud is they bring him all the way up. 7-7, baby. We're not messing around anymore. Welcome to the
I
big boy
can't do it.
pricing.
I can't do it.
Yeah,
Jack Mills D has
yeah,
had too many good games.
yeah. Welcome to the big leagues, kid. You're priced right under Patrick freaking Mahomes. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I can't believe we're week 12 and CJ Stroud is 7-7. It's really crazy. Um, but I agree with you. I think because of the salary saving, listen, Trevor Lawrence did it a lot. And also, let's not forget, Lawrence last year, this could be completely hyperbolic, but I'm pretty sure Lawrence last year got hot in the second half of the season, right? That's when the Jaguars made their push.
Yeah.
We saw Trevor Lawrence, starting to really look like that number one overall pick. And even if last week was a little bit deceptive or deceiving from the box score because he only had the 260 for two through the air, at least, listen, they put a beat down, 34 points, scored 4 total touchdowns. That's the kind of game you need to get rolling to get your confidence going. Here's another in division game that means a lot for both of these teams because the Texans are very much in the hunt. Um, and you got to figure he knows this is a game where he can kind of keep that momentum rolling. So I like Trevor Lawrence. I like Ridley. I like Kirk. All the underlying stuff is going to tell you Evan Ingram's a great play because he's like leading all tight ends in fucking fake air yards and targets and everything. But hey, man, I want to see it in the box score there.
Are you buying the theory that Zay Jones is what
Yeah, it's
frees
a
up
funny one,
Calvin
right?
Ridley?
It's such a funny
Like
one.
like
I
Calvin
guess
Ridley's big games came early in the year. What is he doing? What is he doing that's clearing out all this
it's
room
the
for
only
Calvin
thing you could
Ridley?
think of is that like when you put the three of them on the field together in like goal line packages that Zay Jones is also a very effective touchdown scorer like he showed last year. So maybe like there's big
Imagine
corners covering
Tyler
him. I
Boyd.
don't know.
Imagine Tyler Boyd was out of the lineup and Jamar Chase just
Yeah,
went into the
right,
tank. This is what that's
right.
like.
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, it's like a 3 game sample. I don't know. Maybe.
Or what about
I,
Zay Jones in the 3000s, by the way?
yeah, yeah. Actually, I'm curious. Let me see. Let's see how many targets we're projecting him for. We are projecting Zay Jones for 5. Yeah, Zay Jones is going to make the cheap wide receiver volume. We're projecting for 5.3 targets. So absolutely,
Congratulations, Gary. That's what I'm here for.
Zay Jones. I'm about to write that article right now after this, by the way, so I get it over with. But Zay Jones was the poster boy of cheap wide receiver volume last year, where like the DraftKings price makers last year just couldn't possibly comprehend that Zay Jones was a usable fantasy receiver, so they priced him up like $100 each week, and then he'd go, oh, 22 points, 23 points, another 9 for 98. He just like that was all year last year before Calvin Ridley. So obviously the ceiling case on Zay goes down when all three of those guys are on the field. But you got to figure he missed 6-7 weeks there in between, so another week out there. Yeah, I mean, we're looking for side door points, right? We want to. We always talk about it. We want to find ways to get exposure to our favorite environments that aren't going to be too chalky. I can guarantee you, Zay Jones won't be too chalky. So that's a way. And then ETN, I think ETN's a way too. That I talked maybe the chalker roaches as high up as I want to get. I think ETN has a nice squeaky wheel narrative on him this week, right? Calvin Ridley, I think the whole field goes there because he finally got over 30. We talked 2 weeks ago, you and I. We talked about how ETN. Matchups be damned with ETN because he had 4 straight games of like 30 points, and now he's had 2 straight of 6 points. So there's definitely a squeaky wheel narrative here.
Tough matchups.
Yeah. So squeaky wheel narrative on ETN. So I like Lawrence doubles for sure. If I'm playing Lawrence, I almost definitely want to double. Now last week you didn't need it. In fact, the optimal lineup was a Lawrence skinny stack. But you can't bank on Trevor Lawrence running for 2 touchdowns again. You just can't bank on that. So
100%.
I probably want Lawrence doubles if I'm playing it. And then on the other side, if you're doing Wonka style, you should get some exposure to Stroud. And curious your thoughts on the Texans pass catchers here because Tank Dell it's full on Tank Dell season, man. 2 of the last 3 games at 30 points.
Yep.
He's their wide receiver 1 now. He's priced as such. 3 straight games of double-digit targets. Like the guy's a stud. I'm assuming he's going to get chalky again, but they did aggressively raise his price $1,000 this week.
How many targets did he have last week?
I think he had 10. Yeah, 10.
10. All right, now X this out and go down to my guy Nico. A little bit cheaper. How many targets did he have? He's right back into that massive target share. Now he missed time with an injury, but we know that he's still like, he's that big. They threw a jump ball to him. It's like Dell is like kind of St. Brown. He's going to have this crazy floor with the potential to go wild. But if you're going to ask me which one's going to have 150 and 2 touchdowns potentially, it would probably be Nico Collins. And I'm just saying when you're factoring in, obviously I would prefer to have, if they were the same price, same ownership, I'd say, well, with how hot he's running, let's go with Dell. But when you're factoring in a high ceiling, so you got confirmed that he'll still get 11 targets last week, his touchdown potential, which he has, and when you factor in the ownership, I'm definitely going to have him in some lineups.
Yeah, I think actually, you know what? And they played the exact same amount of snaps. So the good thing for Tank is that it took them a while for them to catch up Tank to be like a wide receiver 1 as far as playing time. He was just producing either way. They each played 51 of 67 snaps last week. And keep in mind, whoever the wide receiver 3 is, we have proven out to be viable for fantasy. You'd much rather it be Noah Brown than Robert Woods just because there's a lot more juice there at this point.
Yeah.
But Robert Woods also was on the field for 50 of 67 snaps, only 1 less snap than the other 2. And, maybe not in large field if it's Woods over Brown, because I don't know if I trust the ceiling. But in a smaller field tournament, if you're really trying to stack this game up, you could definitely consider him. And then obviously Dalton Schultz as well. Like this is like Dallas Cowboys circa, I'm not saying it's as talented, but circa CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and Dalton Schultz. Like there's 4 guys you could straight up consider all of them.
Was Slayton in the optimal lineup last week?
No, he was not. But Saquon and the Giants D were.
Interesting.
You want me to pull up the optimal lineup for it? Or Alex, if you go to linestarapp.com, you can find it. You go NFL and then perfect lineup.
Well, what's interesting about that is
I'll send you that.
I feel like I saw him have 2 touchdowns or something. Like he
was good. He was definitely good. He had what was his line?
What was maybe Shakir was better or something?
Shakir was in the optimal lineup. Yep. Here's the optimal lineup. Shakir was in the optimal lineup. It was a really interesting optimal lineup, and I don't think I'm going to do a leverage article this week, but it would be a fun one to break down because there's like all that typical correlation that you're used to seeing in DFS, where like there's a skinny stack there. Who did the Jaguars play last week? The was it the Packers or the Steelers? Who did they play?
I think they had the Titans at home, right?
Is that how they played last week? Yeah, so there wasn't any bring back there. But you did have a skinny stack, right? And you really don't need to bring back in a lot of those situations. And then, I already mentioned the two Niners without the quarterback, but like that's the current state of DraftKings pricing, right? Just that how expensive was Brock Purdy? 6'4". So just the difference between Purdy and Trevor Lawrence, and for Lawrence having more raw points anyway, plus the $400. But you could still carry those two receivers if you're Purdy. And
Wow.
obviously, a Purdy double with Ayuk and Kittle would have been viable to win a tournament. This is just what was optimal. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love Jalen Warren. I'm really happy to see it happen for Jalen Warren because it's a guy that I play every week. I just know that there's a ceiling in there, so I like to see that. And then the Saquon Giants D, that's like a tale as old as time as far as ways to approach a slate, right? So
I
um,
still do that,
yeah,
man. I still sneak that in.
yeah. I think it's certainly viable. Yeah. So this was an interesting lineup for sure. But yeah, I mean, to circle back on the Jags Texans game, like I'm definitely going to be attacking it. I just don't know how you don't. So I guess if in my big four, it would probably be a Lawrence lineup over a Stroud, but I have to have one of those for sure.
Yeah. Allen's definitely in there for me.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
100%.
Allen. Other teams that have high team totals, the Niners have the second highest on the slate with 20. Oh no,
Uh,
sorry, the
well,
Niners.
no,
The
no, no.
Niners
Yeah,
tomorrow.
that's
I,
yeah.
I'm stupid of me.
Well, this game, this slate has
Oh,
all
I'll tell you
crust.
what.
This
I'll
slate,
tell you.
look at
Yes,
the
it's.
crust. Look at that early crust.
I know. I'll tell you. I'll tell you one that I think is sneaky. So there's only 4 games with 40-point totals. Okay, we talked about Jags Texans. We talked about Bills Eagles. We talked
Yeah,
kind of. We
you're
talked
gonna
about.
point at Minshew over there in Pittman, aren't you?
Fuck yeah, I am. Fuck yeah, I am. We talked about Rams Cardinals. The only other one that's 43.5 is Bucks Colts. That Colts passing offense is super sneaky this week, dude. I know that the bottom could fall out on a Minshew performance because we've seen it. We've seen single digit performances. Like I'm not
Yep.
saying there's a high floor here. There is not. But he's 5,100. Pricing gets super tight, and he already showed a 30-point ceiling in the toughest matchup of one of the toughest
Yeah,
matchups
against
he'll
the
have
Browns.
against Cleveland. Now he
And
gets a
don't
home
call
matchup.
this a tough. Yeah, yeah. The
This is an easy
reason I
matchup.
gave you
It's a
guys
great matchup.
Ayuk last week as the men's warehouse because they were playing this pass defense that got
Great matchup.
roasted.
And
So
Pittman, go look at buddy, pull up Pittman, man. That guy, I talked about it on the first look show today. I couldn't believe how consistent he's been. Like he is just steady Eddie with targets, with double-digit DraftKings points. Like there's going to be a day where he goes for 30 easy here. He's got one game of the whole season of single-digit points. So he's the opposite. He has the floor, and if there's a matchup that he can burst out a ceiling, you got to imagine it's this one. So give me that Minshew Pittman and avoid Jonathan Taylor. The only downside here is, Minshew, you like to have a little bit of rushing upside. They're really bringing Jonathan Taylor back into the offense over the last couple of weeks. But again, you still can't run on Tampa. You really can't. So, I really like this game. I like you could bring Evans back. You could bring Rashad White back, which I think is really sneaky
yep,
because those pass catching backs are the good types of bring backs, right? We already talked about how
yep.
we want to be in that low 6K tier for running back. So like, man, you could start Minshew, Pittman, Rashad White, and you just use barely any money.
Yeah,
So it's like,
I think my big four are Allen. I think number two, coming off that loss, I think I'm gonna go with Mahomes.
okay.
Then I think I'm gonna go with Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
And
Kyler's gonna be
then
chalky, but
I
makes
think
sense.
my is he? And then I think my
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Rondo.
Quarterbacks, I don't care about quarterbacks being chalky. We've
I
talked
think
about this
my
before.
Rondo might be Minshew.
Yeah, I think he's for sure should be your spend down option, especially if you look under quarterbacks, look under Trevor Lawrence. There's no one, in my opinion, attractive until Minshew. I don't think the lightning strikes twice with the veto. I have no idea if Jake Browning can do anything against Pittsburgh. Will Levis has kind of been a flash in the pan. I don't know if I love that game environment against Carolina. Russell Wilson gets the Browns. Baker gets the other side of that game. Every single time I attack that game, I'm attacking Minshew. Carr, we don't know if he's going
I'm
to
gonna
play. It
do
sounds like he
something
might
in the
play, but
millionaire. I'm gonna do something in the
yeah, go ahead.
millionaire. It could absolutely fail. Don't care. I I I I sent you that Badgent lineup that I had with him, Mooney, and Komet. So I do these on the off chance the coordinator thing means something. I'm doing a Pickett double. And I might have Warren,
Wow.
and it might be Pickett Warren. So he's like 4,900. I know it might be shit, but I don't get in the millionaire. Give me a zero. Give me zero total points. Either I want an absurd score or I want garbage. Deontay Johnson's 4,900. Warren's cheap. Pickens is cheap.
Pickens is under
And
5K.
he's cheap.
And Freiermuth
And
is
they're
still cheap.
and they're going to get multiple opportunities. That Cincy team's going to be punting it right back to them. So he could even play bad, just 2-3 good drives, and they're going to keep getting that ball back. New offensive coordinator, new juice. There's a chance. I know that's
Yeah.
because
No, listen,
Pink's
Andy.
been a piece of
Honestly,
shit.
throw that name at me any of the other 3 years we've done this show, I would have said just fuck off. But this has been the year where we've seen Desmond Ritter be optimal twice because he got the 23 points at 4,800. So DraftKings, it's happened in basketball too, man. They changed their pricing a lot this year in basketball. Like the pricing is as tight as it's ever been, and quarterback pricing matters more than it ever has. So I don't really worry
Look,
about ownership at quarterback on either side. So
Bills fired their coordinator. Nice win, couple touchdowns. The Edmonton Oilers fire their coach. Immediate 2 wins. Now they're back to trash. We're not worried about down the road. I want to see if we can get this one game coordinator. Wait, guys, I think things are changing around these parts.
it happens
And
all the time.
yeah,
Antonio
I
Pierce
know
with the
how bad he's
Raiders.
been.
Yeah.
I know how bad he's been. But I'm talking about one single $20 entry I'm going to do. Like not a whole season, not part of the big four. I'm gonna throw it in there. I'll report back next week how awful that lineup is because I will be able to have Diggs and like Smith. I'll be able to have monsters in that lineup.
Yeah. You know what? I don't hate it. So, and the other one is, I don't think it's happening, but if Jameis somehow started over Carr, you could definitely get into that at 49.
Yeah,
that would certainly be a play for you. So yeah, you have some bunker. You definitely listen. You could go. Not only you go to Men's Warehouse, you can go to fucking Burlington Coat Factory this week and take some shots. you know.
All right, cool. Is there anything? Did you want to say anything about tight ends, or we're good to go?
I'll do a quick peek here. Yeah, so that Rams receiver stuff is really worth monitoring because if those guys don't play, that whole game gets less attractive to me. You mentioned Kyler being interesting. Kyler's probably going to be the chalkiest quarterback on the slate again. Again, I don't worry about that. But
I can demote him. He kind of. I was
no,
looking for the.
I think you want Kyler exposure. You definitely want. I'm not worried about ownership at quarterback. It's who's going to be owned alongside him, right? So Hollywood's probably going to be chalky again. Who are your bringbacks? Can the game environment get there?
Gary,
he's
your
going to be
regular guy
50,
can't keep failing with Hollywood.
Yeah, but chalk is dictated by projections, and chalk is dictated by optimizers. That's the vast majority. In the Millie, it's a little bit different, but the vast majority of chalk is still run by projections and plays like that. So he's maybe in the small field he's going to be 30% owned, and in the Millie he's going to be 18% owned.
It's like Stop and Shop, man. Like it's like Costco. You don't get your local markets anymore. They just print it, and it doesn't matter what it is. And there it goes. All right,
it's a no negotiation agency. It's just how it goes. They tight end. So anyway, the point is that the Rams stuff is worth monitoring because if both of those guys are out, first of all, I guess that makes Tutu Atwell chalky, and I also guess Tyler Higbee would be in play in that sense. And I don't even know where you're going from there.
Can you go back to the tight end for a second? Yeah. So I mean, just looking here, the two that stand out to me: Kincaid, McBride. Obviously, both of them have had great target shares. McBride's
and both will be popular, but I get it.
Yeah.
And we talked about the other place that I don't mind. So there's a couple places I don't mind either chalk, right? Quarterback, I don't ever worry about ownership. It doesn't matter. You just need to get the right guy. Running back is way easier to eat chalk than receiver. So running back's the second easiest place to eat chalk. Tight end is the third. Because if you get like McBride that week, right? Raw tight end points matter. Hawkinson still ended up being a strong pivot because he paid up a little bit more, and his 9 more points mattered. We talked about that last week. But McBride 2 weeks ago, that 24 points, even at 3,500, mattered. And then wide receiver is the place where you got to be very careful with the chalky week. You got to be very, very careful with it because wide receiver is purely about ceiling. If your chalk doesn't hit that ceiling, you're gonna want that pivot, very strongly. So it's the place that I'm most unwilling to eat chalk is wide receiver, and then all across the board, this is a very obvious statement, but all across the board, I don't want to eat bad chalk ever, right? Like a guy that's just getting priced up just because of his price, not because he profiles as a good player. This happens in basketball all the time, a little less so in football, but happens in basketball all the time. But it does happen in football, where like a guy's getting a lot of ownership just because of their price. That's never a reason to play.
I did that last week. I did it with Freiermuth last week. I played 2,500 Freiermuth, and I just couldn't stop myself.
Yep, you need it. You still need an upside play there. So anyway, it's an interesting week, and kind of talking through it with you, I like it more than I did before. I'm excited to play it. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to play it. Yeah, I like it.
Did anybody stand out? Any
So this
Burlingtons
is
over here?
this is hard. Yeah, this is hard without ownership. It's something that I don't think we've ever done before is try to give one out without having ownership projections available to me. So if you have anyone, go ahead. Let me do a little
Well,
perusing just to be sure.
I'll just restate my Roach support, and it's because of just the role that he has within the offense. And I continue to see Stafford. They gave 2 shots for Darrell Henderson to run the touchdown screen that they successfully scored against the 49ers. This running back catching a couple passes is a part of their offense, whether Kupp's in, Kupp's out, whatever. Doesn't really matter to me. If they both play, he plays, he doesn't play. They run the ball a ton because they don't trust that offensive line. Everybody, I kind of bought the DFS community's nonsense. They don't throw the ball a lot because they're scared that offensive line is going to get Stafford destroyed yet again. Even when the Roach was out, you have to see how frequently they were running the ball just to keep Stafford from getting hurt. So when you couple that with the work that they're going to give him, along with the receptions, and he was pretty good on the goal line, and the matchup is good, and the last time we saw him, he destroyed that same defense. I'm all Roach all the time. If I go down, he's one of those people I'm happy to go down with. It's not like, oh my God, I took Devontae Smith. I watched the tape from the ring. This is my guy. And at the end of the year, I will not stand by him anymore. It's this year only. I'm all Roach, including this week. Welcome back to my weekly lineups. You'll be in it until you get injured again. It's probably going to happen because you're a small guy with bad ankles. But week 1, I'm going to enjoy you, and you're hopefully a little less owned because of that. The Roach, Kyron Williams.
The Roach.
Yeah.
Roach. Return of the Roach. The
Roach. That's what it is, Alex. Right. Return of the Roach.
Yep. He's back, baby. I like it. I have nothing to say. You fully turned me into a Roach fan, by the way. Like fully. Before, when he was just getting going as the starter, you were on it early. I'll give you all the credit. You love the role. You were taking him in your Odd Shopper videos with overcatches. He's one of your favorite guys. I see it. I recognize it. I'm going to get you a Roach jersey for your birthday. All Roach all the time for Andy.
No, it has to say that though. I don't want a Williams. Yeah. Okay, there's too many Williams out there. I want Roach, and I want that. Wait, it is the year. That's his number, right? 23. That's the year, and that's his number.
Yeah, that is. Wait, it's the year and its number, and it's also how chalky is the number 23 because of Michael Jordan. I mean, come on, it all writes itself. Yeah. So anyway, when you win 6 figures, I'm getting you obviously your lineup frame, but I'm assuming Roach will be in it. So I'll have him. I'll send it to him, get it signed, aka Roach for you. So it's gonna be an exciting day when that happens. All right, I say all that. And
we'll cut you slack on your ownership. By the way, you don't have to be right on the. You don't have to be.
Yeah, it's tough. I have a couple of names. Like I talked about Pittman. I really like Pittman. Because I want to attack that pass game. Yeah, I'll just go there. I like Pittman's under 7K. I don't think, you know what? I don't think he's going to be that owned. I really don't.
He's not. Dude, that's a great
There's so many guys. There's so many guys underneath him, right? You got, think about the guys you have in the full tier below him. You have DeAndre Hopkins, 61, Calvin Ridley, 6, Christian Kirk, 57, Marquise Brown, 52, Gabe Davis, 53, Deontay, you already mentioned, 49, Josh Downs, 48, who on the same team, also a great play. There's too many guys that are way cheaper. That's a guy that falls straight through the cracks. And Tank Dell, who's $100 more, who everyone wants to play. So this is a guy that falls straight through the cracks. Again, we've seen a floor, haven't seen too much of a ceiling, but I know it's there because the targets are elite. This is a great matchup for him. He's shown a camaraderie with a Minshew. Not only the targets consistent, man, look at that. I said this on the first look show too. 4 of the last 5 games, either 8 or 9 receptions. You'll take that type of consistency in full point PPR DraftKings. So yeah, give me Pittman this week.
That's great. All right. Well, I hope this is the week because it couldn't make me happier. Like, you're right. I will enjoy it more if Kyron's in my lineup, and I would just be so proud. I'd be so proud if he was the guy who did it for me. But thank you guys for coming back. we went pretty long here, so we'll let you fend for yourselves on Thanksgiving. I'm sure you'll do just fine. You have Gary's videos over at Established Run. You got my videos over at Odd Shopper and Stochastic. Check out all that stuff for your DFS and NFL sports betting needs. We'll be back with you next week. Hopefully, a hell of a lot richer with the tournament. You know, maybe one of us can lock up one of the big fours. That would be quite nice. Maybe my Kenny Pickett will have us talking millions. We'll see. Highly unlikely. But make sure you're subscribed if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts or wherever you listen to this show. Always appreciate you guys coming back. We will see you next week. Take it easy and happy Thanksgiving if you happen to be listening to this before. Subscription is fucking iBook. Read it. I want every magazine subscription as iBook. As I want every magazine subscription as iBook. Fucking chalk.